This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 11, Episode 30. 30, Matt. I think we get paid by now. Brought to you by ricksnyderswashington.com. I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
And we're back as part of the mighty ricksnyderwashington.com network. So go to the website.
The Rick Snyder Empire. We're taking over.
Yeah, it's a pile of empire or something. But anyway.
Say which one. It could be the Ottoman Empire, you know?
That would be my speed. The Roman Empire, right when it ended the 1,000 years.
Well, no, you're close to retirement, so you got your feet up on the Ottoman.
Oh, all right. Gee, deep thoughts by Matt.
No, it's called Dad Jokes by Matt.
All right. So please like, share, subscribe, and even hit the thanks button. So here we go. Are the Washington Commanders either a really good team or the luckiest bunch you ever saw? Because they sure seem like they got a horseshoe up both pockets.
I don't think they're a good team. Well, hold on. I take this back. They're not a good group. Like, they're not the top of the food chain when it comes to positions. Are they a team? Yes. Dan Quinn has taken a ragtag bunch of guys on 1-year contracts and turned them into a team. Are they lucky? Hell yeah, they're lucky. What's the percentage chances on a Hail Mary? 1 in 1,000? Like
Wow.
maybe 0.05%?
Something. I don't know. I don't think
They have one.
1,000, but
What are the chances of all these late games? The last 5 games, they won on the last play from scrimmage.
right. I don't know if anyone's ever done that in any sport.
I don't know.
I mean, it'd be like winning 5 straight baseball games with a walk-off homer.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't think anybody's ever done. One of them was a defensive stop, but
Yeah.
I think it's 7 wins now overall that they've had, in the last play, because you got Chicago's Hail Mary earlier.
Yeah.
Things like that. I mean, I just sat there in disbelief. But yet, you just figure, here they come. I mean, when they were playing Tampa, I watched Vita Vea just gasping for breath during that 17-play drive in the second quarter. And I thought, hey, fat boy, you're going to be dead in the fourth quarter, and they're going to own you.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
That defense, the Buccaneers defense is pretty dang on good from what I could tell. I mean, we saw them earlier in the year. It was the first game of the season. The defense is always ahead of offense. But, watching this game, I mean, they just marched down the field, and by the end of the game, those guys had nothing left. They'd already lost their top corner. Winfield was on one leg because he was just coming back from injury. Vea's sucking wind. The guy, I thought they were calling him Diami, but it's something else. I can't pronounce his name. He was sucking gas. He was so mad when he grabbed Jaden's towel instead of Jaden. He got so mad he threw it at him. It was so funny, But that's the thing. They were gassed, and so I will say, is there luck? Sure, there's a hell of a lot of luck, but they're a team. Are they good? I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing, Rick. Number 5 is elite. That boy is elite, and that boy does not get phased. He didn't even realize he didn't even really celebrate that they won until the PR guy came up and said, "Come on, man, we got to go do some interviews." And he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's go."
Yeah, they doinked the winner in. And I did think of Dan Turk at that moment because Dan Turk, blew the last snap of the 99 loss. And I thought maybe there's a little redemption in heaven because Dan died the next year. But you have to remember, a goalpost upright is about the width of a dollar bill.
Yep.
Oh, now side to side, the other way.
Yeah.
And so that's like a fraction of an inch between in and out.
Yeah.
I just thought that was amazing.
Here, Rick, that's the thing. You talk about redemption. I mean, what is every stat that we've seen this year? It hasn't been done since 91.
Oh, anything to do with winning.
Anything to do with winning. Anything to do with records. Anything to do with, division. It hasn't been done since 91. This entire season has been about redemption. So, of course, a doink into the field goal to win the game. Of course, it's all part of the redemption. This team, this franchise has exorcised all the demons of the past 25 years in
Yeah.
one season. I don't know if they brought in a witch doctor and he blew sage through the air vents of FedEx now Northwest Field. I don't know what the hell they did, but they have exorcised so many demons and so much of the bad karma that was left in that stadium due to Dan Snyder, and that's the thing. It's so funny. The only thing I can do is I just hope Dan was sitting there on his boat watching, like, dude, you could have had this. You just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. So here's how I think this team really pulled this off. Is a couple of things happened. One, because they have the chemistry. That's the biggest thing. And the chemistry came from several ways. They went and got several vocal leaders like Eckler, Ertz. Ertz will kill you, man. He's Brian Mitchell. Wagner. He got those veteran guys that come here that weren't just looking for a paycheck. They were looking to win. That's a different animal than the Dion crew of in the past.
Right.
All right. By getting those guys, you didn't put the pressure on your rookie quarterback to be that guy because he's not that guy. He's Cool Hand Luke that just sits on the bench, says, "We got it, fam," and goes out and does it. He's like Champ Bailey. But by having those vocal defensive leaders, it let JD be himself.
Mm-hmm.
It was really important. And then the draft, remember, every draft pick they got was a team captain. And, which was really a weird thing I'd never seen. And so they were the type of people that all bought into this. And it was basically, we're going to pick up the sword and we're going to go kill people. And they all did it. Now, when they started doing some of these Paris Island drills and yelling and stuff in the spring, I thought, okay, we see how this goes in the fall when you're losing and all that. But they still did it. They didn't ever change. They have that kind of mentality. And I give Quinn a lot of credit for this. I like to tease that he's like Ted Lasso because he talks like an HR director of trending upward. But he's tapped into the 20-something mentality. My generation, coach smacked you upside the head and told you to go. Your generation was probably something like that. But this generation, that doesn't work that way. And he's tapped into it because I remember one game, one of the offensive linemen had like 3 penalties. And somebody said, "Did you get on him?" And Quinn said, and it was really the essence of what he's like. He goes, "Well, yeah, I talked to him about it, but you don't have to be a jerk over it." That win. And so they bought into this guy who doesn't abuse them like that. He doesn't practice them as hard as he has to. All these kind of chemistry points have really got there. And so when they went to 7-2 and then lost 3 straight, Quinn is basically talking every time about the tough times will battle readiest. And it did. They came back for 5 more and they won them all, doing it this way.
Yeah, and it was funny because McLaurin had mentioned that. McLaurin had mentioned that on Saturday or Sunday night after the game was, those moments are what make them ready, and it's just, every video that you see of Dan Quinn after the game on the field when they win, he does the standard of going up and saying hello and hugging the other coach and all that stuff. But after that, when his players come up to him and the stuff that they've shot in the locker room, it is always Dan hugging on these guys saying, "I love you, brother. I love you, brother. We got it. We got it." Like he has that modern way of coaching, which probably is different than what he was in Atlanta. So this is the thing that we had all hoped for. In Atlanta, they rose real quick. They got to the Super Bowl. They were up 28-3 on the Patriots. We all know what happened. Dan was then let go, went back to be a coordinator. And then, he finally got his second chance, but he has learned from his time in Atlanta what not to do. And Dan did something unique. And we talked about this when he was hired. Dan didn't hire people that he was familiar with. Dan hired people around him, except for maybe we'll say Joe Witt, because obviously they were together in Dallas. And he brought in a couple of his guys from Dallas. But besides that, he never coached with Cliff Kingsbury. He never coached with Anthony Lynn. He didn't coach with these guys. He brought in guys with experience that knew how to win. Kingsbury had a very successful first year in Arizona. Anthony Lynn had a very successful year a couple times with the Chargers. I mean, these are guys that were leaders, and they have bought into what Dan wanted to do. That's why he brought them in. It's just, and you talked about I think the biggest signing, which was probably the biggest signing for me, was Wagner. The interaction between Wagner and Daniels, it's that big brother relationship. They tease one another. When Bobby Wagner got his I think, what did he get? Walter Payton Man of the Year for the Commanders or something like that, or he got nominated for something. Jaden's in the crowd with the reporters like mocking him, and you saw the interaction on Sunday Night Football after they won. Like it's a big brother little brother kind of mentorship. It's amazing. Like I said, Wagner to me was just like, oh well, he's coming here because he's going to Howard, and or he just wants to finish his degree and all this stuff. No, he has come here to be a vocal leader and to get this team motivated to win. And like you said, Ertz will go out there and slit your throat. He don't care. Eckler, he came here to prove that he still had it after the injuries, and now he's bought into the entire team mentality as well. That guy, in the past on a Commanders team with a high profile running back like that's had 2 concussions in a season, he would have just wrote it out. He would have came back next year. Eckler wanted to be on that field against Dallas, and he definitely wanted to be on that field against Tampa.
Yeah. And to your point about the coaching staff, I talked about this about a month or two ago. It reminded me very much of Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals, which was his cabinet. Abraham Lincoln beat 4 guys out in the Republican Party to get the nomination. I mean, he was not a popular dude at all. And yet, when he became president, he hired those 4 guys to be his cabinet, and they were key members of it, who, when he died, were his biggest advocates.
Yeah.
Here you got a coaching staff with several former head coaches, but nobody knew each other. They talked a lot about that in the offseason, about they had to get to know each other on the coaching staff level. And they did, and they didn't compete against each other, in a weird way. I mean, listen, I've seen many a defensive coordinator fight with the head coach and try and show him up and all that. They've all bought into each other as a group. Now, the winning helps all that even heighten itself.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean,
this team has only really seen 3 games of hardship, and realistically, this team was not going to beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. This team was not going to beat the Steelers at home. And this team, the only real letdown loss was the Cowboys, the first Cowboys loss in Washington, But even then, you can kind of get away with saying, that could have been your 8th walk-off win. If Seibert had kicked the extra point, they would have went up 28-27. Yeah, we forget that. Terry had that home run ball with the closing seconds to win that game. But yeah, and I think with Quinn, it's kind of with everybody. It's you check your ego at the door. You check your ego at the door. We are a family, we are a team, and we are here with one common goal. And you can see it.
Yeah, I've watched them all year. I've talked to him one-on-one at times. And I mean, I like the guy, I always did, but I was skeptical. I have to admit, could this guy really pull it off? Now, nobody expected 13 wins so far. And listen, if they can somehow beat Detroit, they can get to the Super Bowl because Detroit's a damn good team.
Oh, yeah.
This is the toughest team in their way to get to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But he's done a master class in a way of so many levels here that so many other coaches just weren't prepared to do.
And yet he's not nominated for Coach of the Year.
Which is ridiculous. I mean,
which is insanity.
You tell me you want to give the Detroit coach that? He was bringing back an aces team. Mm-hmm. This guy had nothing, and they'd like to say, oh, postseason doesn't count. BS on that. Everybody knows how that works.
If the stinking Chiefs go out and win the 3rd Super Bowl in a row, they're going to give it to Andy Reid. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, but I think, you just look at it and go, who brought it up? It's kind of like the MVP award. MVP should be the most valuable player to his team, but it has to be to a winning team. Some guys can get a bad team to good, and they've been more valuable to that team than the really good ones.
That's why I think it really boils down to, honestly, it's Lamar, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels. You take Jaden Daniels off this team, what are they, a 3-win team? Mariota did win 2 games. So
yeah, I mean they would have been a 500 team probably.
Yeah,
with Mariota and a lot of other past quarterbacks I've seen. All right, now so I've been telling people, they asked me, what was it like during the Super Bowl era? Kind of like this. People were excited. People talked about it all the time. You're in a different part of the city working. I mean, what's it been like on a daily work basis with guys?
I'll say this. This season has proven that when this team wins, the people come back. You see a lot more Commander stuff. You see a lot less people complaining about the name. You see a lot less people complaining about the uniforms. You see a lot less complaining about the stadium and its amenities. There is a lot less complaining, and it is you just stop and you see somebody wearing a Commander's hat or a Commander's shirt or whatever, and you're like, "Hey man, we got a chance. We got a chance on Saturday. What do you think? They're going up to Detroit, man. You got to stop Gibbs." I mean, it's just those conversations. Rick, they what they have done, it's it goes beyond just winning on the field. Sorry, Bruce Allen. They've won off the field too, because all the people that left when Dan was gone or Dan was here, they're back. You log into TikTok, you log into Twitter, there's people from across the country talking about the Commanders. You watch ESPN, NBC Sports, they're all talking about the Commanders and what Jaden Daniels has done. It's insane. I mean, and I tell you what, man, it's all falling into line. They got that deal done with Congress for the stadium. If you don't think that stadium's going at RFK now, you're crazy.
Well, you can never trust politicians.
I agree, but you know what? You keep this winning up and you keep this morale, and you're uniting this city again and this area again. They're going to have no choice.
Yeah, because I mean, next week's the inauguration, and not to get political, but things get a little tense around here on inauguration time. So this is kind of like the great distraction from all that.
Hey, you know what? They go out and beat Detroit. That inauguration is going to go off without a hitch because we're still going to be hungover from Saturday.
Yeah, nobody will be downtown anyway. It's a holiday. Well, it's supposed to be a high of 25 on inauguration day.
Yeah, no, screw that. I ain't leaving my house.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, I agree that this has been the most I've seen since the early 90s. Then, people can, I don't know, there's a lot of trolls that can't believe it and they don't want to be happy because they've been beaten to death for so long. But I laugh and they say, "What do you think Dan Snyder said or Bruce Allen?" I said, "These people had no shame, and so they don't feel this at all. They're
right.
They're going, I could have done this. I just left a year early or something." BS.
Yeah, no, I mean, you still see people that are touting, "Oh, well, Caleb Williams is still a better quarterback." Well, guess what? Caleb Williams is not playing this weekend, and Jaden Daniels is. And there's this one guy I know. Twitter attacks him all the time. His name is Adam Rank. I think he's on the NFL Network. He put out a tweet after the draft where it was like, after bringing in the most boring free agents with no impact and hiring a bum for a retread bum head coach that lost the biggest lead in Super Bowl history and drafting the most overhyped quarterback when he should have taken Drake May. Let's revisit this in 8 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's killed on Twitter, but these are guys that are sticking to their guns. They're going for clickbait.
Yeah, I saw that tweet too. It was pretty funny. That and the Eagles fan who got fired for being mean to somebody. I don't know.
The Packers girl.
Yeah, and I mean,
that guy's a douche.
Welcome to an Eagles game. Where are you guys?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny too because like all these old clips are popping up on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. There was a news, I think it was Channel 7 piece about when the then Redskins went to Philadelphia to play at the Vet. I think it was like 91 or 92. And they were talking about how Chief Z had to be surrounded by vet security. And there was another guy walking into the stadium wearing a red headdress, and they ripped it off his head. And he was like, and a fight almost ensued over the Washington Redskins merchandise and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, that's what it is. I mean, the Vet had a jail. The Vet had a jail, a legit jail in the basement. And it was for a reason. Because crap goes down up there.
I mean, Chief Z actually one time was badly beaten.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, seriously beaten.
So not to boast up his ego, but I will say this: when Chief Z did get beaten up and he needed to be in a wheelchair, Snyder actually bought him a wheelchair and he purchased it from the company that my wife used to work for. So that's true. That's a true story. I know for a fact.
And actually, when Chief Z died, Dan Snyder paid for his funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't know. So I always said Dan Snyder had a 1% nice thing. He did do some nice things for people, but
yeah, every now and then.
That's it, man. That's all you got.
Well, if it wasn't for Tanya, they wouldn't have started the NFL breast cancer month.
Yeah, I was there for that presser. I'll tell you about that another time.
Yeah, it was Tanya and D'Angelo Williams were the biggest backers of that.
Well, I mean, the crazy part about that first presser was it was about 30 minutes before the game started, and the PR guy came and got me because I was the main beat writer around then. And he said, "Rick, come down to this." I'm like, "No, it's like 30 minutes to kickoff. We have things to do." He says, "Please calm down with me. I can't, she's going to be talking. I can't have nobody there." So as a favor, we went down there and we asked a few questions, and nobody really wrote about it. I mean, that's a terrible time to do a press conference.
Yeah, wow.
So that was, they were just tone deaf to that stuff. But yeah, the one last Eagles thing. Then I had a buddy who you can't have DC plates on your car and go up to
Nope.
there. If any of you have done, like for one time, the new team doctor had his nice car up there. Came back, all his tires were slashed. I mean, that kind of stuff. And a buddy of mine was a diehard Redskin fan. Bought an Eagles cap for $5, and he would leave it on his dash so that nobody would bust his car up.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff really does happen. But yet Oakland was much scarier than that. Oakland was rough.
Yeah, well, it's gangs.
You were afraid of being robbed everywhere.
I told you this story. A buddy of mine's from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, so it's right outside of Philadelphia. And we rode up there one day to go check out some stuff. He's got a friend that's buried up there, so we went to go visit him and stuff. And I was getting dressed in the morning, and I always used to wear a red Nationals hat. Well, the Nationals hat went in the closet that day, and I made sure to wear an Orioles hat because I figured Baltimore's close enough to Philadelphia where they won't mind. And, oh, by the way, they're not division rivals.
All right, so they're on to Detroit Saturday night. Thank you. Another night game.
Thank God. At least it's Saturday, and we're all off on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, but Sunday's two games are during the day.
No, 3:30 and 6:30.
Yeah, so you're done by 9:30, 10. I mean, that part of it. Most of the writers on these night games, I usually you get home around 2 or so, but some of these guys are even later than that. I don't know why, but they are.
Yeah, you and I talked. I think I went to bed a half an hour before you did.
I mean, it was, phew. But this one, okay, whatever. Here we go again. I agree with you. Sunday's that. I mean, the Detroit game, I saw that they've gone from -8.5 to -9.5.
Yeah.
The betting's all on Detroit. I think the over-under is 50.5. I'd go over, definitely. But I would take the points because I don't know if Washington wins this game, but then I get blown out either because they can score points. I just think the key, I swear I want to grab, Quinn and say, please, if you win the coin toss, go take the ball and try and score because if it's 7-0 Detroit, some of you can be down 17-0 Detroit. I mean, you don't want to play catch up with that team.
No, they've talked about that. If you go down 2 scores to them, either 10 or 14 to them, they got you where they want you. Yeah. That's what they do. I'll say this. It's going to be a lot closer than 9 points. Like I said, I'm with you. I don't necessarily think that we win. But they're playing with house money. All the pressure is on Detroit. Well, who's been the number one consensus Super Bowl pick since preseason? The Detroit Lions. Who went 15-2 and has to live up to that? The Detroit Lions. Who's going to have to weigh it on their shoulders if they lose to the Commanders and say you were 15-2 and you lost to a wild card, the 6th seed, the Detroit Lions? They're going to be motivated to play this game, but I also think that they could come out and play it tight, and that's where Jaden Daniels and the offense can catch them when they're sleeping, where they're back on their heels.
Yeah, that's what you got to try and do. Get up 7-0, hope you get a turnover. Suddenly it's 10 or 14, something like that, and then you can change the game.
The key is obviously they have to stop Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is a dynamic playmaker in the backfield. I don't know if they're going to have Montgomery. They have a two-headed monster at running back. St. Brown is really good as well. Hopefully the game against Tampa, Lattimore got his legs underneath of him because he did not look himself. You're going to have to – there's a lot of weapons on Detroit. But Jared Goff does throw interceptions and he does fumble. So, there's a chance that they've got a hell of an offensive line though, and we have no pass rush, but there's a chance for Goff to make mistakes.
Yeah. And what about Brian Robinson? To me, I make Chris Rodriguez active because
yes,
B-Rob hasn't cracked an egg in really well. He's had three 100-yard games this year, strangely, and yet not had 800 yards for a season. And he's just been nothing.
I wouldn't hold him out. Like I'd give him a jersey,
Yeah.
but I would. My running backs would definitely be this week: Rodriguez, Eckler, and Robinson.
Yeah, I think C-Rod, they need C-Rod in this one. I would bring him up.
Honestly, if they would have had Rodriguez against Tampa, two of those red zone opportunities probably would have turned into points.
I mean, the problem is one thing, and they'll have to face it again next year. Defenses are taking away the edge from because that's where JD runs up all of a sudden and gets people. I mean, they nailed him on he was out of bounds on that one.
Yeah, that should have been a 15-yard flag.
Yeah, and the ref was right there, and they still didn't call it. And I thought he's clearly out of bounds, but they're taking away that edge on him, so they got to go more in the middle. And they don't. The line's just a sore bag of bones.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was being an idiot on Twitter, but I made a comment when they hit Jaden Daniels like that. If that was Mahomes, the game would have been stopped. The Chiefs would have automatically been awarded a touchdown and an extra point. The guy would have been ejected, and he would have been arrested as soon as he walked off the field.
Oh, if it was Brady, they would have incarcerated the guy.
Yeah, they would have. We would have had a public. It's like when a horse breaks his leg in a horse race, they would have shot him on the damn track.
Yeah, I mean, for Brady, they would have just had him forfeit the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was that. The fourth downs, like last week, the first one, okay, I didn't have a problem. They didn't make it, but okay. The second one, you had nothing going on the first three downs. You were flat as all. I wouldn't have gone there. I would kick the field goal on that one, and then the other two worked out. So I mean, but I just thought it wasn't always the smartest of play calling in those situations.
Hey, this week it's over under 5 total punts between Detroit and Washington because it's either going to end up in the end zone or they're going for it on fourth down because Quinn and Campbell are the two highest percentage fourth down going for it on fourth down coaches in the league.
Yeah, after the game, I looked at the stat sheet for a second. I thought, did Tress White punt?
No.
No, he just slacking off again.
Yep. Jaden Daniels is the second quarterback in history to have zero turnovers and 0 punts. The first one was Peyton Manning.
Wow. Yeah. So
I'm telling you, there's so many stats and stuff that he's breaking this year. It's insane.
Yeah. How much money did De'Ami Brown make from that game? Because De'Ami Brown's a free agent at the end of the season. And we've been waiting for De'Ami Brown to be a great player.
For 4 years.
And he even had that documentary that he paid for himself before the season where yours truly got his voice lifted from one of my videos, and they've used it. But it was really funny because it fit perfectly, and I couldn't have done it if I tried. But I wrote it. I said in there at the end, either he does something this year or he's gone. Well, he's been an okay player. De'Ami Brown really, mystifies me because he doesn't get the opportunities. But he doesn't always make the most of the ones he gets.
Yeah.
I still think he's a better player than we've seen. And he finally punched through on this game. To me, Washington's got Terry, and then they've got a handful of guys that can be the number 2. And that's okay. OZ one week is the number 2. This week was De'Ami Brown. Occasionally Ertz gets in there again.
Well, but that's the thing. I mean, we don't have a bona fide number 2, and that's something that Adam Peters is going to have to shore up in the offseason. Yeah, I mean, De'Ami's a good slot receiver. De'Ami, if you're not going to keep OZ, if you're not going to, they're probably not going to bring Noah Brown back because he's been bitten by the injury bug the past couple years. KJ Osborne was just brought in to be a roster spot. I mean, Crowder's the oldest 31-year-old in the league. You're probably, if you keep him, you're going to have him strictly on punts and kicks. But yeah, that's a job for Adam Peters this year is to go out and find you a bona fide 2. If Brown wants to stay and it's a relatively, small deal for maybe 2 or 3 years, you keep him, you put him in the slot.
Yeah. Okay, so we might as well pick it. I'm going to say Detroit 37, Washington 31.
I think we're in agreement again. It's going to be 38-31 Detroit.
Yeah, I just think Washington just a little bit short.
I think the defense is going to finally, the inefficiencies of the defense are finally going to come through. When you don't have a pass rush, you have to rattle Jared Goff. In order for him to make mistakes, you have to rattle him, and I don't think they can get to him. Um, this team has been playing with house money, so they're going to go in, they're going to play loose, they're going to play fast, but I just think that Detroit has too many weapons for you to cover, and Detroit can score at the drop of a dime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
You blink and it's 10-0.
this team will play good defense for stretches, and suddenly, zoom, man, the other teams.
Well, that was the thing with Tampa. Going back to the Tampa game, the defense looked really good until the end of the first half, and then Mike Evans showed up again. Same thing towards the end of the game. All of a sudden, here comes Mike Evans again. It's like, I understand. Like I said, we talked about it, and I know you got it on here. Lattimore is banged up. Lattimore is playing on 1.5 legs. I still think that Lattimore was brought in for the playoffs and for the future. I just don't think that they foresaw him getting hurt again, before the playoffs. So I'm not calling the Lattimore trade a bad trade yet. I still think that next year we will see. But that's another area. I mean, you've hit on Sanistril. That boy can cover. That boy is a bad dude. But then you've got, who's your number 3? I mean, St. Juice, every time he walks on the field, they throw a flag at him. It doesn't matter. He sneezes on a guy wrong and they throw a flag at him. Number 1, I can't even attempt to pronounce his name. He was good at the beginning of the season, but I think he's kind of fallen off towards the end. And we saw what old Mikey Davis is all about. So, that's the thing. I think you're going to run out of guys that can cover the Detroit weapons.
I always say a lot of coaches lose games more than they win games. If I'm the Tampa Bay coach and I know how to slice and dice at times, why don't you do that? Just keep doing that until they stop you. At the end of the first half, you figured out how to go down the field and score. Keep going, man. Bring it back in the third and say, we're going to keep doing this until you stop us. And if you don't stop us, we're going to keep scoring.
Well, another example of where you need a guy on the sidelines to keep track of your damn timeouts. Todd Bowles wasted more time at the end of that game than I have no idea what the hell they were doing there.
Yeah, that was bad. I just see a lot of coaches that, okay, this really worked. Now let's try this. Why? Just you have your foot on their throat, choke them out. Yeah, and then Washington has watched other teams not do what that was about. I just think, wow, you guys are overthinking crap too much.
But Rick, I'll say this. I don't know how you felt, but when they got the ball back with 4 minutes left, you knew Tampa wasn't getting that ball back.
Yeah, they did that really well. Yeah, Ron.
They have perfected the Rigo drill better than Gibbs and Riggins did.
Yeah, because they had a 17-play, 9-minute drive in that second quarter.
That's when you said Veo was gassed. I mean, I'm sure the whole defense was.
Yeah, and they had several other. Last 2 games, they've had like 5 or 6 long Rigo drill type of plays. It's been impressive on that. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, before we go, did I see the Caps are number 1 right now?
Yeah, they're tied with Winnipeg and Vegas for the best record in the league.
How in the world that happened?
I don't know, because Ovi missed, 6 weeks?
Something, yeah.
He's 22 away from breaking the record.
I just was like, wow, what's going on?
I mean, that you talk about all the success that Dan Quinn has. Look at what Spencer Carberry. Nobody had ever heard of him. Within 2 years, he's got him as the best team in the league with a bunch of guys and Alex Ovechkin.
No, I just couldn't let the Caps go by with that. Where are the Pens at?
We are not good.
I just shocked that the Caps were that good.
We are old and we are not good.
Watching the Wizards lose.
Yeah, where's the Wizards at? What do they got? 3 wins?
No, they got 6 now.
Oh, 6. Man, they doubled my expectations.
It's something like 6-33. I mean, it's really, I couldn't believe we're at midseason already. But
it's funny. As much as I am confident that in every pick that Adam Peters makes, if the Wizards end up with the lottery, I'm not confident they're gonna make the right pick.
Yeah, that would be like, oh, we got the number 1 pick. Okay, there's nobody any good this year.
Well, I mean, that's God bless him, but that's kind of what it was when we got John Wall. John Wall was not built to be a superstar. John Wall was built to be a very good player that would get a couple max contracts and fade out, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, saw he was back over the weekend.
Yeah.
All right, before we go, make sure everybody, if there's anyone still listening here, Rick Snyder's Washington.com I've kind of merged my tourism and sports and all that stuff together. Still writing for Yardbarker too and other things, but go to the website, check it out. You might like it if you don't. Well, whatever.
You get to see my smiling face. Hey, one thing you did want to hit on that we haven't touched on real quick. Both Kingsbury and Witt have been requested for interviews. Do they leave?
No, I mean, to me, the New York Jets are asking about Witt. New York Jets have asked about everybody, including Maryland coach Mike Loxley, who has a decidedly losing record as a college coach, and he had a losing record this year at 4-8. Why would Jet fans want to see Mike Loxley there?
And Ron Rivera.
I mean,
They interviewed Ron Rivera.
what was that about? I mean,
who knows? They're interviewing. Hey, Rick, you might get an interview. You know something about football.
hey, you get
I could get an interview. Hey, guess what? I won a Super Bowl in Madden 10 years ago. Maybe I can get an interview.
I mean, that talks about such a desperation thing. It's like the old thing: if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. Well, if you interview a dozen coaches, you don't have a coach either. I just don't. I think it's too soon for Witt. This is his first year as a D coordinator. I'd like to see him stay a couple more years. I like the guy. I think he could be a head coach, but maybe it's not quite time. And the Jets, I would put anything into the Jets with all the interviews they've done. Yeah. Kingsbury, New Orleans, and Chicago. Well, I can see Chicago really trying to make a big bid. Although now that McCarthy's out, at Dallas, he'll probably get one of those jobs. Kingsbury's kind of happy where he is, but like I said, you never know. I mean,
so my obviously, look, we don't know because we never expected Sean McVay to go to the Rams. We thought, okay, they want to interview the kid. He's not ready. He's going to stay in Washington one more season, then he'll get next year. And what they do? They threw a ton of money at him. Said, "We're moving to L.A. Come on, pretty boy, let's roll." And they went out and won a Super Bowl.
I'm disagreeing with you on that one. I knew McVay would get that job.
Wow, I did not. I didn't expect him to. But I'll say this. So real quick, with Kingsbury, he's still making $8 million from the Arizona Cardinals. If he takes another head coaching job, that money is gone. I don't think he leaves this year unless it's a very attractive job. And yeah, obviously you're going to put the connection between him and Caleb Williams. But, maybe he's having more fun with Jaden, and making $8 million plus a coordinator's salary. And they're a lot further along than the Bears are this year. For Joe Witt, I remember you and I talked about it during his introductory press conference. Witt will be a head coach within probably 3 to 4 years. The guy has that kind of charisma at the microphone. And if he can put the motivation side of it and the, running an organization under his belt, and he's probably learning from Quinn. Let's be honest. He's learning on the job from Dan. He'll be a head coach, but I think it's maybe 3 or 4 years out. And it also depends on how well his defenses perform once you get him some players.
So do you think I should ship my book over to, is it Antonio Brown reading on the sidelines?
A.J. Brown.
Oh, is that okay? So he, I saw his book. The book he was reading about is something about success. Went to number 1 on the bestsellers list. I thought,
it went from like 2,500 and something to number 1 overnight.
Yeah, good for them, man.
I hope that author paid him a little bit of money to do that.
Influencer pay, yeah,
exactly.
That was crazy. So I don't know. Influencer pay. I'm fielding. I'm getting offers for people to promote their stuff, and I've had some stuff come to me, but I don't know if I told this story on here. A few months ago, I got a PR company said, "We want you to model the clothes of this company." And I thought, what, Fat Boy, Big Fat and Tall stores, whatever they're called. They said, no, it's a women's swimwear line. And I'm going, okay, either somebody's punking me or something here. But I thought, I called them up and I said, you're going to pay me not to wear this stuff. It was legit women's swimwear. And I thought, my God, if I put a 2-piece on, I would have broken the internet. You would have never let me down. Stop talking about it. But that's the kind of crazy stuff that happens at times. I was like, wow, I should have got myself a yellow polka dot bikini and just and started my OnlyFans page.
I was going to say, that's where the OnlyFans is getting fired up at.
I hate to think where that would have gone.
Oh, my Lord. A women's swimwear company.
Yeah, I asked that lady, what in the world made you think I wanted to do this?
Were they like 1950s bathing suits? Because I don't need to see you in a bikini.
That's what I was going to wear. And I mean, it was, she said that the PR companies get this list of companies that do things. And I said, well, that list is wrong.
What part of Rick Snyder's Washington screams women's bathing suit?
Yeah. That's the craziness that goes on sometimes. I'm not against, if anybody out there has any money, we can talk about it. But yeah, that's the craziness that can go on sometimes.
Oh, I'll hock anything you got to sell if you got some money.
Well, yeah, except I didn't do that one thing. What was it called? Remember the shaver?
Oh, Manscaped. Yeah, when we were on the Hogsty, Steve had brokered a deal with Manscaped, and they wanted us to do manscaping ads, which for you don't know is a personal men's trimmer, and I'm not talking about for your beard. So Rick wouldn't do the commercial. Like we came up with a funny commercial and everything, and Rick wouldn't do it. I had to have my wife do it. Now, luckily, well, unfortunately, Manscaped didn't live up to their end. I didn't get my free shaver, and I think we only ran that ad like 2 or 3 times. But yeah, you definitely you stuck to your guns on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'd never even heard of it at the time. Now it's a little more commonly known.
Oh yeah, they're in Manscaped is in the middle of the UFC ring during pay-per-views. Like they're on big time stuff now.
Well, obviously my boycott didn't hurt them.
But I will say this, I mean, looking back, where your website and your YouTube channel is going, I don't necessarily think, your prayer stuff and your sermon writing stuff sponsored by Manscaped would go over very well.
That's true. 52 questions for God is actually going to start pretty soon too.
And the 53rd question is, what do you use for a personal men's shaver? Manscaped.
Yeah, that's where Jesus sends me to hell. So I'm trying to do those questions.
Yep.
The show will be on Sunday mornings, 10 minutes, one question with the pastor, and we talk about it. And it's coming soon. Probably a couple more weeks, we'll be ready to go. It's kind of, I've been busy with football so much.
Yeah, no, we're used to, this is usually our wrap-up show by now. We're getting ready to go in the off season.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me, did I believe in this team? And I said, let me just say this. In November, I booked a Hawaiian cruise for February, but 10 days after the Super Bowl. Because I just saw if I book it then, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not doing this. I'm going to give myself an extra week after the Super Bowl before we go. And so I didn't discount it, as crazy as that was. At this point, I'm not really surprised. I thought they'd win a playoff game. So they have.
So I was talking to a buddy of mine, Todd. Shout out to Todd. I told him, I said, he likes a little bit of the inside baseball. So we talk about, the podcast and the stuff outside of the show. But I was telling him, I said, Rick's tried to retire 3 times. He's tried to put the end to our podcast, his coverage of the team. I said, he literally was about to retire, and Dan Snyder said he's selling the team. Then he was going to retire, and Dan actually did sell the team. Then he was going to retire, and now they're in the second round of the playoffs. So, Hey, Rick, next year we're going to threaten to retire again, and we're going to a Super Bowl.
That'd be awesome. I'll be on the float waving goodbye to everybody.
I was going to say, you're going to pull the biggest Jerome Bettis I've ever seen. Congratulations. You won the game. I'm out. I've seen 4 of them now.
I'll probably be there until I can't figure out if they're the Ravens or the Redskins or something. Who knows? At that point, I'll just be going, where are we? But, that's where I'll get my free meals anymore.
At the old folks' home.
Yeah. I can sit there. Maybe I'll make it back. Who knows? But, yeah, you're right. I can't seem to end this. But that's why 52 questions were forgot. It's a little later than I wanted. I wanted to start 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'll tell you what, when that new stadium goes up at RFK Stadium, I want that press box. I want your name on a plaque in that press box, and I'm going to petition everybody with the team, Mr. Harris, all them guys. Let's make it happen.
At that point, I'll have my 50 years in.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be the longest tenured DC sports writer.
Yeah, I mean, Shirley Povich did 75, but he only did 50 as a regular, and then the last 25 were part-time. Still, I mean, he started when he was 18 like I did, and he went to 93. Was a great journalist, and I've seen a couple press boxes named for him. But now I think you can update it to someone new who's been around for half a century on there. I mean, last summer was my 50th training camp somewhere. As crazy as that is.
You took time off when you had your heart attack.
Yeah, I got 3 weeks off. I was going to leave.
I thought you went and covered the Caps or something.
I did do the Caps for 1 season part-time. I'm a backup guy.
Gotcha.
I mean, I haven't done I've done the Redskins since 83, but not full-time since 83. It was really 93 when I started full time. But I know one question somebody asked me this week. He goes, "How would you rank this team versus the 3 Super Bowl winners?" And I actually thought about it. I said, not as good as 91. That was a great team. And I think not as good as 83 with Riggins. But I would say they were better than the 87 one with Doug Williams. So
it's very reminiscent of the 87 team now that you say something, because you kind of caught lightning in a bottle with Doug. You caught lightning in a bottle with Timmy Smith for one game. I mean, obviously it's been more extended with Jaden so far, but I think that's also why Jaden and Doug have such a good bond. I read an article about that where Jaden and Doug kind of have this really good bond with one another, because Doug is a special consultant to the team or something. He's still around the team. We see him in the locker room and stuff, but I think that's why they have this kind of kinship with one another. It's pretty cool.
I mean, RG3 and Dwayne Haskins didn't want anything to do with Doug. They just didn't see the worth in talking to him. Some other quarterbacks too. They just were like, eh.
Well, I think Jason Campbell had to make the phone call because he wanted to wear 17.
Yeah, but it was just one of those weird things that players don't always respect those from way in the past. Like Michael Westbrook didn't know who Charlie Taylor was. At the time, that was only about 15 years apart. Well, maybe more than that, 20 years apart. But it was in recent enough history. And Charlie would come out to the park. He was doing some TV work. And Westbrook was like, who is this? Had no idea.
But that's one of the things, I know we're rambling at this point, we got to wrap it up, but that's one of the things that Harris and everybody has done such a good job of is, not forgetting your past, bringing these guys around every game, bringing these guys to training camp, bringing these guys that established your franchise back and having them interact with these young kids to realize, hey, look, this is more than just about 2024, 2025. This is about the 3 Super Bowls. This is about, what this is about the stands rocking at RFK. This is more than just one season. This is about a history. This is about a legacy that, with a name change and a uniform change that might get lost.
And next year's the legacy helmet, number 3 helmet they can put up. Will we see the spear? Will we see the spear, or will we see the Indian logo? Maybe. If they're
I think we'll see Chief Two Guns. I honestly do. I think that is one of the things that, with Congress and the family and the the what they've done with the wall for the tribute to the Wetzel family. I think we're going to see that helmet.
Well, that'd be cool. All right. Nobody listened to the last 30 minutes, but it was good stuff.
Yeah, it was really good stuff. Listen in 2 parts.
Yeah. Antoinette, somebody else stayed with us for the end.
It's Antoinette and my best friend Bob Baker.
Bob's still there. Antoinette fell asleep twice, but she's still with us now. So there's a few people that do it. The live chats are on Monday night, YouTube, if you want to watch. We'll do it till the Super Bowl and then take a break because I haven't stopped since July. We even missed one of these during the time, but I keep trying and they keep pulling me back in. So.
Yeah, I mean, usually how this goes is when they're done, we'll last until the Super Bowl. We'll kind of talk about what the upcoming season means and off season and everything like that. We'll take a short little break and then start it all back up again.
Oh my God, we got to start over again.
Hey, it's exciting though, Rick. They win. They're winning.
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay. All right. I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent with your hosts, Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.